going on the introductory notes to the biological organization, the levels of life, okay? So we are first going to ask our question, what do you have to do? What do all cells have to do to be alive? What are the four main functions that are the most critical things that you, even as a total human being, have to do to maintain a living condition? And you should say respiration is number one. You have got to have gases. You have to take in oxygen and give off CO2. If you don't give off that CO2, you are going to die. Your cells are going to die within a matter of a few seconds. Secondly, you have to take in food, digestion. And so cells all have to be fed. The third function that's critical is excretion. You have to get rid of the waste, solid and liquid waste from the digestion of the food. And the last thing that cells have to do is they have to reproduce themselves because they're all going to age and they're going to dry up. And so you have to reproduce yourself at all times. Now, in 101 biology, you should have learned there's two types of reproduction that go on in the overall body. And so mitosis occurs in every cell of the body except for two. And so this is a fast way to reproduce. They double the chromosomes, they pop apart, and then they produce a new cell. So there's two new cells. So the other way, a cell reproduction method, is called meiosis, M-E-I. And so these are, this type of reproduction only occurs in the gametes. And gametes are the egg and the sperm cell, okay? So egg and sperm. That's it. All right, now, so to make a new individual, you have to do the meiosis reproduction, but mitosis maintains all the rest of the cells in the organs. All right, now the second thing, what are all living cells made of, okay? Well, you can look at a periodic table and they've got like 118 elements on there, chemical elements that are not living, okay, non-living. And so how many of those elements off a periodic table do you actually need? Well, it depends upon what book you read, but they say basically from 30 to 40. So I say you need 35. I just split the difference and say you need 35. So which are the most crucial elements that you need to take in? Well, here are the top four: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. That you have to take in the most in your foods and liquids that you consume. And 90% of all the things that come in your body, your foods, basically have to be composed of these top four things, all right? So basically you get a lot of oxygen, you breathe that in, but basically even in your foods, your organic compounds, they're gonna be made out of CH and O, big time. So these four elements, basically they make your organic compounds, and they're great for cell repair and maintaining cell functions, okay? So the big four. All right, and as we go along and learn more about cells and tissues, etc., we'll talk more about their specific functions. The next five elements that you need that are critical, you've got to take in potassium. Why? Muscle contraction relies on potassium levels. Then you have to take in phosphorus, the big P, right here. That helps you make protein. And protein helps make enzymes, it makes hormones, it makes secretions, it repairs cell membranes. And so basically, you gotta have a lot of phosphorus in your body. And then we have sulfur. Sulfur also helps make proteins in the body. And so again, it would be the same functions as for phosphorus. And then we go to calcium. Calcium is absolutely necessary to contract all muscle tissue types. So muscle contractions are all dependent on calcium. Then our last element is magnesium. And magnesium relaxes muscle. So it's going to break the bonds of the contraction and then make the whole cell relax. And so if you ever have a heart attack, in the drip system they give you, it's always magnesium sulfate. And that's going to possibly save you, save your life by administering that drug. All right, so now, then we need trace elements. And how much do you need in trace elements? Well, we have a lot of trace elements. So we basically have four here here. And then we have 5, 9. So 9 from 35 is what? Like 26? So here are some of the top trace elements. And what do we mean by this? You need a little bit of these elements, but not too much. Because if you take in too much of some of these elements, you will actually create disorders and diseases will start happening. So here are the top ones that we talk about the most in a lot of the systems, and I'll be adding some as we go through the various systems. But sodium is super important because sodium makes nerves run, okay? And sodium, you know, attaches to chloride and it makes salt. And so salts run nerves. It creates the electricity in the nerves, okay? So gotta have some chloride. And then we have iron, Fe. And so you've got to have iron for your red blood cells because they make something called hemoglobin, which attaches to the oxygen like Velcro, and so it carries the oxygen in the blood. So you've got to have that iron component in the hemoglobin. Then we have lithium, and lithium basically is to keep your nervous system running well, especially the brain. And so basically if you're low in lithium, then you could possibly become schizophrenic. And so that's the cause of schizophrenia is low lithium. So it keeps your brain running very smoothly and balanced. And then we go on to selenium, Se. Selenium is another trace element that creates good memory in the brain. And so to store a lot of memory, selenium needs to be in your foods, your vegetables, etc., which it is. And it will help you remember more things for this class in particular. And then we have zinc. And so zinc is good for the skin functioning, and it also helps a lot of enzymes run faster and more smoothly to do their functions. So skin and enzymes is specific for zinc. And then we go to fluoride or fluorine right here. And so fluoride used to be, or fluorine used to be Fl, and now they've changed it on the periodic table to just F. And what is fluorine good for? Basically teeth and bones, all right? And so I'll switch over here. And then we've got chromium. Chromium's in every diet product, and basically it helps you burn fat inside your cells, and this will help you lose weight. So Cr. And then we have iodine, super crucial. And so if you eat a lot of fish, fish is loaded with iodine, and iodine is necessary to make the two famous thyroid hormones called T3 and 4. And what do T3 and 4? They run every mitochondria. Those hormones go to the mitochondria, and they speed up the enzymes to break down your foods inside the mitochondria. Now the chemical elements that we just talked about are going to bond together. And so if you've had chemistry, you know that basically there's two types of bonding. Covalent bonds where they share the orbits, and so they're balanced. And then there's ionic bonds that actually make your salts, okay? Salts in the medical world and physiology world are also called electrolytes, okay? So ionic bonds are not balanced, and they give up or take on different electrons. But basically, what are some of the elements that make salts? Sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and fluorine, or fluoride. And also, salts are called PO4s. We have two kinds of salts made out of phosphorus and oxygen, and that's called a phosphate, PO4, and SO4 is a sulfate, all right? So those are considered different types of salts that are necessary in the human body. Now, once you have the bonding going on, the bonding will create compounds, okay? And so this is the next level, and compounds are not alive. They're just made out of chemical elements. And we have two kinds of compounds that we make out of all of our elements, and they're called inorganic or organic. You can actually take chemistry classes in this. But anyway, inorganic chemistry means the compound may or may not have carbon in it. So a compound, the definition, is usually two or more elements, right? Two or more elements bonded together. That's the definition of basically a compound. So inorganic might have carbon, but they don't have to. But organic compounds do have carbon, always. So they've got to have that carbon because it sort of acts like a charcoal briquette. When you add oxygen to it and enzymes, it will help create a basically a fire or a chemical reaction. So we've got to have carbon in organic compounds. And what are the three big groups of organic compounds that you have to take in to create and maintain a living condition? Well, the big three are the ones that you eat as your foods. Carbohydrates, which are sugars and starches. And why do you eat sugars and starches? Because they break down so quickly in your mitochondria, they produce a lot of energy, which is ATP. And then our second big group of organic compounds is called lipids. And lipids are known as fats, okay? And so why do we eat fats? Because they're a great source of slow release of energy, stored energy. Fats also make up your hormones, known as steroids. Secretions, like mucus has it in it, saliva, and cell membrane repair. CM stands for cell membrane. So that's what fats are critical for in us. Proteins. When we eat protein, we're eating something called amino acids, which amino acids are nothing more than sugars plus nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So all of your carbs and your lipids are just made out of CHO, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. All right, so amino acids make up basically your vitamins. And why do you want to take in proteins? Well, your DNA, your chromosomes are made out of protein. RNA, which makes up enzymes, hormones, secretions, they're all basically made out of protein. So basically, this RNA right here is going to make enzymes, hormones, and secretions. That's what RNA does. All right, and then cell membrane repair. Right here, cell membrane repair is crucial because all cell membranes, remember, are made out of protein, fat, protein. Phospholipids, the fats in the middle. Great. All right, now once you have organic compounds coming together, when these come together, the organic compounds come together, they make a living cell, okay? A living cell up there. And so basically, a living cell is the basic unit of life. You know that from probably elementary school. But basically, the living cell has structures in its cytoplasm called organelles that you have heard about many times. And the organelles have specific life functions like respiration, digestion, excretion, basically reproduction. And so those will be some of their functions, life functions. And now, when you have a cell created, two or more alike cells can bond together and they create the next level of biological organization called the tissue level in the body. And so we have four basic tissues that make up all of your organs. What are the four basic tissues? ET, called epithelial tissue, CT, connective tissue, MT, muscle tissue, and NT, nerve tissue. So those four basic tissues will make up all your organs. So the definition of an organ is two or more tissues that work together to do functions, okay? And so we have two kinds of organs in the human body. And the two kinds of organs are basically called solid and tubular. All right, now, once you get the organs made, then two or more organs that function together make up body systems. They make up systems. And you have 11 body systems, all right? Includes Mr. R, if you remember that statement, then basically each letter is the name for each system. So I would be integument, which is skin, N for nervous, C for cardiovascular, L for lymphatic, also known as immune, the ones that produce your antibodies, U for urinary, D digestive, E is endocrine, the hormone system, S for skeletal, and then M for muscular, respiration, R, and the last one, R, repro, right. So those are your 11 body systems. And your 11 body systems then go together to make you, and you are called an organism, right? A human is an organism, and there's 3 basic shapes to all humans, organisms. So what are they? Basically, ectomorph, which is 6 foot tall or taller, and basically they have very long appendages and very little body fat. Then mesomorphs. These are average height people as adults, and they can be a little overweight, but basically not tremendously overweight. Then we have endomorph body shape, and these are people that are only 4'11", so they're short, and they always tend to be overweight. So they have very short appendages because the tallest they are is 4'11". So your 3 body shapes here are based on the length of your appendages, right here, the length of the appendages, and the percentage of body fat.